Hey, Seth David here from the world famous Nerd Enterprises Incorporated, bringing to you another special screencast. This time we're talking about e-commerce accounting, detail versus summary. Which one should you do and why? And in this video, I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of the difference in terms of what it looks like. Are there use cases for both? Yes. Do I have an opinion about what people should do about this? Definitely. And that's what I want to get into and share with you. And you know, the real quick answer is that there are use cases for both. And what I'll say is, for companies that are very small and don't have a very detailed or sophisticated product mix, you know, where everything's pretty simple, then sure, you can do the summary method, right? But let's assume that at some point, any company, and I'm speaking really to my accounting and bookkeeping friends here, let's assume that at some point, any company that you're working with might grow, might expand, might add more products to the product mix, and for that matter, might at some point need to scale to where the need for more detailed data becomes paramount. Then at the very least, you want to be working with an app and in an ecosystem that can scale with you. Because one thing's for sure is it can be very expensive on a number of different levels if you have to switch accounting systems in order to accommodate your growth. So think ahead, plan ahead, think about that. One thing's for sure, as soon as you have, you know, any kind of a complex product mix, and let's define complex as, you know, more than a few products, where you really need detailed reporting that kind of gets you almost order level profitability. In other words, you know, a lot of apps that are going to sync my sales data from multiple sales channels are only going to have access to the sales data. The beauty of having that stuff sync over to QuickBooks Online is QuickBooks Online has all the cost data. It has all the data around what I've spent on the inventory. And if inventory is being tracked in QBO, then I have the perfect sort of mix in terms of the cost of goods sold information that I need, that most sales app that any sales app you're using that just syncs order data doesn't have access to those details. So that's another thing to think about. At some point, we should assume that every client, every e-commerce company that we work with is going to need detailed reporting, which means I want to be able to see what products are selling really well and what products aren't. And I want to be able to see what my profitability is on each SKU or each product line that I sell in my product mix. So let's get into this, and I'll show you a quick demonstration of what I am talking about. All right, so we're going to look here at my Gotham Tactical Supply Company. Okay, and I've taken the time to record some sales for the month of October of 2024 so that I can just quickly show you what we've got here. Now, whether you're doing detail or summary, this much, what you're seeing on screen here, is available. Right? Doesn't make a difference. But as soon as I want to drill into any of these numbers, that's where things get different and maybe a little interesting. So in October, we did the detail method. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a few journal entries, which is how your data is usually getting in on a summary basis from any apps that you're using that only do summary. And we'll run the November P&L, and I'll show you the difference in terms of what you can't get access to when you're doing it that way. So let's drill in. Here's my tactical supply sales, right? I've got 2 sales receipts. Now on the surface, this doesn't seem like it's showing a whole lot just because that's what by default QuickBooks Online gives me. But watch what I can do in about 3 clicks. So I click here, and then I want product, service, quantity, and rate. And without getting into formatting the report and changing the column order, boom, there it is. So I can instantly get in here and I can see that this represents the sale of a quantity of 3 at the rate of 1,800. How I got to the 5,400. This represents a sale of a quantity of 2 at the rate of 2,500. Instantly, I have access to details that can be really useful. Now, let's take this one step further, and notice this is posting a sales receipt in QuickBooks Online, which means I've got my items, you know, so I can track my inventory. And I'll show you the next report that I like to look at, especially if I want to see how profitable was this particular order. And obviously I'm keeping it fairly simple for the purposes of demonstration. But if I click more down here and I choose transaction journal, I get what I think is a really cool report, because now I see the debits and credits. Now I can see the true profitability. I can see that we ultimately brought in 5,400, right? So kind of ignore this line for the purposes of profitability, because this is just what went into the bank, which is the same thing as this. This is the income, what we sold it for. Okay, but I can also clearly see 3,000 coming out of inventory and going into cost of goods sold. So I can dump this into Excel if I needed to, if it was a little more complicated than this, but I can also quickly eyeball this and see that I made $2,400 on this sale. So you get this level of detail, and this is just one way of looking at it as an example of what you have access to when you have both your sales and your cost of goods sold data in one place. In short, the simple answer is I can pull reports that show me the whole entire picture around any order, any sale that I've made. Okay, now let's look at some sales for November that I want to post. Okay, so I've just prepared a quick sketch here. Let's get rid of that. That was from something else I was doing. Okay, a quick sketch here. So we're going to record a sale on November 1st to Steve Rogers. Okay, let's go back here, and this is going to be a journal entry, because again, most of your e-commerce apps that don't give you the option even to post detailed sales information, such as we've got here with sales receipts and the inventory parts and so on, what they're going to give you is a journal entry. So let's record the journal entry. Okay, my sale date is November 1st. Okay, and the first thing we have is going to be a debit, right? Or actually, let's start with the income, right? So we'll credit income for $1,800. Okay, and this is going to be tactical supply sales. Okay, now we need to debit the cost of goods sold, right, to get that part done. Okay, so what was cost of goods sold on this? 1,000. Okay, and then we're going to record how much went into the bank, right? So Continental Bank got the whole 1,800. Okay, and now we just have to deal with the inventory asset part to kind of balance this, right? So inventory asset lost 1,000, right? My cost of goods sold comes out of cost of goods sold, or out of inventory rather, and into cost of goods sold, right? Inventory asset, boom. So notice already what there's no information about this here is the quantity. I don't know how many I actually sold here, right? In this case, it's one. It's simple enough, but if I had 10 of these, I'd have no way of knowing what that was. For the name, I could put the customer, who is my customer, Steve Rogers, right? So I can put that information here. Okay, and I might want that across the board. Okay, and location, classes, whatever. Right, so that's one, and let's post the other sale. Okay, the next sale was from November 15th. Okay, and tactical supply sales. We've got 5,000, or 10,000 rather. Oops. Okay, and then cost of goods sold, debit, 6,000. Right, while I'm here, let's just take that difference out of inventory asset. Okay, and then what went into the bank? 10,000, right? It kind of plugged the difference in for me. So again, we got the whole sale dealt with. Who was the sale to? It was to Mr. Thor. We'll get him added quickly as a customer. There we go. Okay, and you get it. Most important is that his name gets associated with the sale. I'm not going to waste your time copying and pasting stuff. You get the idea. And I'll say save and close. Okay, and now let's run our P&L for November. There we go. Okay, so I've got my total sales of 11,800, my total cost of goods sold of 11,700. Let's make sure that checks out. right? Always like to check my math, like any good accountant should, right? So 11, 8, and 7. So our profit 4,800. Okay, but now of course if I click in here, I have no data on what's sold. I can get from here into the journal entry, right? I don't even see the name here, even where I did associate the name, because that's just how journal entries kind of work. So yeah, that's it. That's what I get. Which means if I wanted to analyze that kind of detail, I would have to be able to rely on whatever e-commerce app I'm using. But like I said, most of these e-commerce apps that you're using probably only pull in the sales data. So you could analyze the sales, but you didn't have to export that maybe into a spreadsheet and then go into QuickBooks where you have your inventory and cost of goods sold sales. Even that, the inventory posting is only going to show you the aggregate. You're not going to be able to see the quantity. You're not going to be able to, you're just going to be able to see the totals. So you're missing a lot of really important data when you handle the accounting this way. So as far as use cases go, like I said, the summary level is fine for small businesses that don't have a lot of, detailed reporting needs. But I would urge you, when you're choosing the app that you're going to use, that you want to plan on sticking with for a really long time, at least make sure you choose something that can scale with you, so that when the day arrives, and if you grow at all, that day will arrive where you need more detailed reporting, more sophisticated reporting, then you want an app that can scale with you, so you don't have to invest time and money and energy and everything else into switching accounting systems. So at the very least, choose something that gives you the option to do either summary or detailed, and this way you're covered. And I think it's sooner rather than later, especially if you're an accountant like me, you're going to want those details, right? I'm a data junkie. I like to analyze things all day long, especially in e-commerce. It's such like stiff competition out there. There's, you sell on Amazon, Amazon competes with you. So you have to be so quick to be able to analyze data and see what's working well, what isn't, and where you need to sort of make pivots in order to keep up and frankly not get overstocked with something because you can no longer compete because you didn't have the data early enough to be able to see that coming down the pipeline. So that is my story, and I'm sticking to it as always. I hope you learned something here, had some fun along the way. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web.